Well, you know exactly what time it is yet again. That was a short little break, but this is Road Gang Radio with Jimmy Mack and Lindsay Lawler with our final guest.
Welcome back, guys. It's Road Gang Radio. Jimmy Mack here with Lindsay Lawler. We got a great guest coming up for you in a second, but I want to remind people we're over at the Fastport Studios at the Degas House in New Orleans, less than 2 minutes from Dave's original Road Gang location. Fastport's been solving America's toughest recruiting and workforce challenges through research, technology, and people for quite some time. From registered apprenticeships to veteran readiness, you can learn more at fastport.com or go to nationalapprenticeship.org. Don't forget, if you actually break down, visit our friends over at truckdown.com. Download that app, man.
Gotta get up and truck down. Gotta get up and truck down.
50 states, 8 provinces, truckdown.com. Get out of the ditch and back on the road. And when you do, put on your Spotify or whatever your streaming service is. Lindsay, who should they listen to?
They should listen to Shelby Means on repeat, y'all. It will make those hours traveling down the road go by. I promise it. Okay, so I'm really excited about this. Joining us, we're welcoming her back, by the way, to the show. It's Shelby Means. You may already know her as a Grammy Award-winning bassist. She won a Grammy. I know her. She won a Grammy for Best Bluegrass Album earlier this year for her work with Molly Tuttle and Golden Highway on their 2023 album, City of Gold, which is phenomenal. She's a killer vocalist and honestly one of the coolest, most respected names in bluegrass and Americana right now. She's played with everybody from Della to Molly Tuttle to the Troubadours, and now she's out with her brand new solo record, Thank You Jesus. It just dropped. It's stunning, it's soulful, it's rootsy, it's honest, it's all the things. And she brought some heavy hitters along for the ride. Of course, there's Billy String, Sierra Farrell, Lindsay Lou, No More Than Two, not me, the other actual Lindsay Lou. This is one of those albums, guys, that makes you feel something, and I mean that. It probably makes you want to start a band, and no offense, you will never be Shelby Means. Well, the real Shelby Means, please stand up. She's the real deal. I'm so glad she's back with us today. Please make welcome to the program with a new album out, Shelby Means. Good morning.
Good morning. How are y'all doing?
We're good. Hey, Shelby, real quick. Shelby Means, what do you mean? This morning, what does Shelby mean?
Business.
Shelby means business. Shelby means bluegrass. It can mean anything, you know. It depends on my mood, I suppose.
Fair enough.
Shelby, this is going to be kind of a strange question in regards to its specificity. What have you been up to the last couple of weeks? I mean, what has been going on specifically? What's the day-to-day been like? I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, but what has the last 3 or 4 weeks been like for you?
Wow, putting out a record is a wild ride.
Yeah,
and
you think?
Almost like now that it's out, it's like it has its own little path, and I've just been enjoying that stepping back from a bit of the business side of it, and then out into the van, onto the road. Played a few shows in Winston-Salem and Charlotte, North Carolina, and then a hometown show for me in Charleston. And then actually this week I am on vacation. I took a vacation to Pawleys Island with my husband's family. They do it every year, an annual beach trip, and we all share a beach house. And so this week the routine has been very out of the ordinary for me, just hanging with lots of family, going out onto the beach. My nephew's here, so we're chasing around the almost 2-year-old. And, of course, my husband Joel and I play music together, so we've been practicing a lot because I have a great album release show lined up next week in Nashville.
Yeehaw.
So
I will be there, by the way.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way...
say that? Oops.
Yes, you can.
You can say anything
you
you
can
want.
say worse.
Yeah.
We can do whatever we want.
New platform.
I love it.
Shelby, and of course, thank you for getting why I asked the question, because you are in between. You are in the hammock between what Lindsay likes to call over and next, and that's kind of where you are right now. And I was kind of curious, and you actually ended up answering the question a little bit because you are playing guitars with your hubby. But my question is, when you do finally arrive at downtime, are you able in any sort of mindful way to turn off your mind, or does it never stop wanting to figure out music and being creative? I realize you've answered a little bit, but picking on strings ain't the same as figuring out what's next.
Yeah, she's on vacation, calling into our radio show and practicing with her husband. So she's not on vacation.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, as a self-employed person, I do think it's challenging and something that it's worth talking about, because when do you turn it off? With our little cell phone devices, we can be working from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep, or any time in between. But I've lately, this year, just really gotten reinvigorated with reading books and reading like fantasy books. So I'm reading a book about witches right now, and that honestly is one of my favorite things and favorite ways to just disconnect and, disconnect from work and from music. So,
No, it helps.
I'm able to a little bit, yeah.
It probably helps just the plain make believe. I've been feeling this a while as I'm a songwriter as well, and so thinking about that, like, man, I've got to return. I've done so much of nonfiction and self-help and all that. I need to return to some of the fantasy and that childlike joy, which I think will help me in my adult life change my writing. Which begs the question to you: how do you, as you we write before we get married, and then we write when we're married, and then we write when we're older, and maybe there's kids or nieces and nephews or whatever, like all these different seasons of life. But can you kind of break down your career as an artist and a musician, which spans quite some time, and be like, oh, that was a chapter, this was a chapter, that was a chapter? Or do you see it as all one fluid thing, if that makes sense?
I think being a side person in different bands, there's different eras, Mm-hmm. So that certainly is like, oh, that was the Della era, and where I wasn't maybe as aware of my writing in that era, even though I was doing it and I was still completing songs. I wanted to write and be creative, and then as I've gotten older, I guess I've just gathered more tools along the way to help me understand how to dig in and be creative.
No, that makes sense.
When I was younger, it was just like it was a little bit easier to make time for it in a way, and then I just would get busy on the road or whatever and kind of fall out of practice of it. So just keeping that journal handy, I think, is helping me. But it is like, with all the work that went into putting a new record out into the world, which I do hope everyone will give a listen to. If
yes.
Spotify or Tidal or however you get your music these days. That's so much energy went into that I'm in this little period of just nurturing that. And, but I'm starting to look forward and think like, oh gosh, I want to make another one. I want to do some more duet recordings with Joel, and I want to do this, I want to do that. So the goals continue to form, and so then I have to keep the creative wheels moving forward.
Well, good, because once you have no more goals, you're done and you're dead. So we have to continue to evolve and add to our toolkit, or else, Jim, it's over.
It's really kind of neat because we just had on two guests who had just written a book about Aikido, about their sensei, and there's a quote from here, and I wanted to actually ask you about this in regards to your own writing. And the book says, "This leads me to a final point, which is that anything and everything can be an opportunity to process, to pump the pump, as sensei might say. Sitting down and standing up, raising and lowering your arms, walking 3 steps forward and 3 steps back, breathing in and breathing out, all are simple, natural activities. With a slight focus shift inward, the pump begins to pump and energy flows." And I bring that up because, one of the hardest things for me to adjust to when doing this show and having to create content every day and to read and to write is I find that if I keep flashcards with me and just simply write really brief outlines, it means that I haven't lost the idea when I get home to actually sit down and write them out. And I really, I've come to really love that. And I'm wondering, as a creative writer yourself, if there are little tricks you've done to be like, I can't write this song right now, but I can't lose it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's that moment of, I can't lose this, but I have, I mean, do you find yourself scribbling on the back of bubblegum wrappers? You know what I'm saying? It's like, give me that bubblegum wrapper and writing down. What do you do?
Yeah, I do. I always have a journal in my backpack, and that's kind of my go-to. Because as a traveling person, I always have my backpack with me, too. So that's that. My phone is a really handy tool with voice memos if I want to just speak something or hum a little melody. So often songs will come to me with melodies and lyrics attached, kind of. So I'll get a few lines into my phone. But I do not really like writing. Just if it's an idea and I absolutely don't have a piece of paper, I can type it into my notes on my phone, but those are less likely for me to actually remember to go back to and find. I don't know. It's just the writing. Something about physically writing it down is easier. Or singing into the phone for the voice memo.
It 100% is, and I hope that you will come back when launching a show next month called We Should Write here, which is about the healing power of writing, but with equal parts sarcasm and soul. But just how, because, you know, I know I'll physically write something down and maybe not look at it for 6 months or a year or even longer, but then you come back and see it and you're like, oh my God. Sometimes we can't see it or feel it or understand it in the moment, but when you find it later, it's very profound to me. So hopefully, and I'm putting you on the spot, so say yes that you will come back for that, please.
Totally. I'd love
to. Not when you're on vacation, though. So I'm curious your take on this. We just last week during our country and Western music news reported that the Grammys have now opened up a new category for best traditional country album. Is slotted in there, which is awesome. Thank you, Jesus. And I'm curious your take on that. Not that you would necessarily fall into that, but what I think it does, maybe specifically for someone like you, it opens up. There's so much right now before that category that just falls into the best country album. That's just such a flat general statement. So now there's going to be best traditional country, best contemporary country, and of course there's the bluegrass category as well. Do you think that adding that other category in there is going to make by almost make more room for smaller or more room for more people into the smaller categories? Because before now we just lump everything over. You're either bluegrass or your country. But now with that traditional, I think there's more room for people to stand out. How do you, as a Grammy Award winner yourself, how do you feel like throwing that in leaves more room for people, or do you?
I was excited to see them adding a traditional country Grammy category. I think it's really important to honor the roots, and a lot of artists are doing that, but also country music is so popular in a different way than Johnny Cash or Chris Stapleton. The fact that Beyonce and Post Malone were all nominated for country album for best country album last year with Casey Musgraves and Lainey Wilson and Chris Stapleton. Like, I listened to those records and they were just wildly different. The production and I don't know. It's amazing that they could all be in the same category. So I think it's probably going to be helpful. There's pop country, and I'm not sure exactly what they'll mean by just country now versus traditional country. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. And as a Grammy voter, I'm excited for the prospect of what will come up, because that's my those are like country music and folk. That's kind of what I love listening to.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's exciting to just that the Grammys are recognizing that there is so much of a wide variety in country music right now.
Yeah.
Speaking of music, what are you listening to right now? What's on your playlist? What are things that you're digging into and you're getting a chance to revisit since you have a little bit of space? When you're not picking strings, which strings are you listening to?
I've been digging back into J.D. Crowe in the New South. They call it the 0044, which is the record that Tony Rice, J.D. Crowe, Jerry Douglas was on, and Ricky Skaggs. So I got really inspired going to Brian Sutton's Blue Ridge Guitar Camp and was taking notes on what the instructors were offering us some of their favorite records. So that was one of them. It's just Tony Rice and his voice and his guitar playing are endlessly inspiring. I've also been listening to like some. So just I'm With Her. They just released a record, and I really liked that one. Mason Vi released a new record. So I'm trying to keep up with some of the contemporary songs that are coming out as well.
I'm With Her. I need to check that one out. So speaking of inspiration, though, there's a lot of, as Jim said earlier today, we were talking about you on the show, and just that this record really is joyful, but without being schmaltzy. And yet but it's joyful while you're still saying stuff. Like there's some, there's real moments, there's real talk in it. You have something to say, and that's heard on this record, which is really important as a debut solo record. It's really important that you say something, and you did. So I have a question that's two-part, and the first part is there a lyric on the album, or which lyric on the album that stands out to you now that was the hardest truth to say out loud, but you said it anyway, even if you snuck it in maybe a little sideways? What was the hard thing to say, and you're like, I got to do it to resonate? Wow, that is such a good question. The hardest thing to say. I had a lot of, I think we sort of touched on High Plains, Wyoming last time, and but I can't remember for sure. The third verse in that song, I even didn't fully understand what I was talking about. It was hard. That verse was hard for me, and I was singing it the other day and was struck by the meaning of it. Like, oh my God, like the loneliness of this person that is stuck because they're, in my head, like their person was taken from them and never returned. And, and then it struck me, and we all experience loss and we all experience grief, and for someone to feel trapped in a trace, like you're tracing the line of that person, but you're trapped, like you can't go outside the lines. That always was really a challenge for me. As a little kid, I loved coloring outside of the lines. Forcing me to have a little box around something is really challenging. So that could be one of the challenging things. That's why you're a good songwriter, because that landed so much for you. Even though you didn't, my guess is even though you didn't know what you were saying, you know what you felt, and it probably weighed heavy on your chest to think about somebody else going through that. So then the part two of the question is, pick a line from the album. I don't know if you have tattoos or not, but that's not the point. That you would get tattooed, like in a little tiny script somewhere, even if you hid it, could be on your ribs where no one would see it. Is there a line from your album you would get tattooed, either on your forehead or on your rib? I think maybe one of my favorite lines is the bridge in Up on the Mountain. She said, "An eye for an eye and a buck for an apple. Lay it on the table or get yourself gone." Ooh, come on. That'd be a cool tattoo, wouldn't it?
That's what I call a little bourbon and barbed wire country songwriting right there. I want to go back to what Lindsay actually caught up on that too. I really don't understand what I was trying to say. I love that, by the way, Lindsay, because that's the thing that songs are supposed to do. That's when you know it's good, actually. Well, that's what songs are supposed to do for the artist. We know what they do for the listener. For the listener, it's supposed to capture something that they have always felt and never been able to kind of put into words or to song. For the artist, I always feel like I'm wrestling with something here, and the only way to really make sense of it is to put it onto a page and then to put it into the mix and then to put it into my mouth. The problem is I can't guarantee that I'll know what I'm saying, but I have to guarantee that I give it a shot. And that's kind of what it feels like to a large degree, that's where the artist, as opposed to the performer, really comes out. It's almost like turning to your audience and going, I'm working something out here. Bear with me. If that makes sense.
Yes. And I think it's beautiful that audiences are open to that, to receive that. Some, especially in maybe like the jam world a little bit, where you're not even using words, but you're expressing emotions through notes or tones. And you don't know where it's going to go, and you don't know what somebody next to you is going to say that might help you get to where you're going. But, like, people are there for it. They're willing to listen, and if there's a mistake or something along the way, it's bold and it's courageous that you keep going, I think, and it's just cool that I hope to cultivate audiences that will appreciate my courage to get up there and try something new, or play a solo in a different way than I have before, just because of a feeling or something. I think that's, hopefully I'm putting that out there.
Well,
You are, yeah.
I mean, it's true, though. I mean, you think about, like, the Grateful Dead and the Allman Brothers getting together on those epic jams to end those shows, and it's like, I don't know when we're going to stop. I don't know. Are you buckled in? Because we're going to go for a while here. Just hang on tight, folks. And by the way, there's an audience for that, as the Dead
Light a
prove.
joint. We ain't done yet.
As the audience proved, there is an audience for that, is there not? It's really cool. It's really cool. Have you ever been on a jam like that? Have you ever been in a jam where you just felt like it began to kind of break the I guess the bounds? A jam that allowed you to color outside the box.
Yes, and it's a beautiful thing. And I play the upright bass. I was giggling because in the beginning you said, well, the real Shelby Means, please stand up. And I'm like, well, I'm playing the upright bass. So yeah, she's up. She's standing up.
No choice.
Yeah, but playing the bass in a jam session like that is amazing, and can get a little bit confusing sometimes. Like, where are they going? How can I support it so that they can express themselves and feel rooted but not stuck to what it has to be? Like, you don't want to be stuck to the form, but you want to give them a little structure in a way. And I also, sometimes I've been in these amazing old-time jams where everyone is playing the melody together, and everyone's standing in a circle, and it's like you're shoulder to shoulder, and you're outside, and it's almost dawn, and the fiddles are playing kind of scratchy but wild, and it feels like I hate to say it, but it just feels like the world could end and the song would go on. Like, or, something.
Oh, that's a great line.
But you wouldn't stop playing because the song has its own power. I don't know.
No, that's fair.
Your question.
You totally did.
It's the final note of A Day in the Life by the Beatles. It just goes on.
The world could end, but the song would go on. So, Shelby Means music will go on. We just have a couple of minutes left, Shelby. I want to say real quick, this interview that we're listening to now will be up live on our YouTube channel this afternoon, as soon as it's over. All the interviews from yesterday, including Tech Talk with TMC, Education Station with Andrew, the Kaylee Bishop interview, and the Kelly Ramsey interview. Those are all up now. These will all be up as well later, so everybody can continue to catch those. If you're listening now, you obviously did miss it, but you can also share the link with somebody else, including this interview we're doing with Shelby Means. So, Shelby, I want to ask you, because, speaking of bold and courageous, like we said earlier, you being I'm going to keep hitting it because it must feel so fun to say Grammy-winning woman.
Oh, yeah.
Grammy award-winning woman.
Welcome back to the main stage, or the strip club, depending on how you want to say it. Okay, so you're a Grammy-winning woman holding down the low end in a genre that hasn't always made space for that, And do you feel like you're sneaking through the cracks still a little bit, or have you officially, put your flag in the ground and have you been able to move past that? Because you definitely stand out in a crowd with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. It's been an advantage and a disadvantage for my whole career, I think. And now I'm married, and I do think that helps. Where there had been perceived threat before of a woman in a man's circle, I feel so much gratitude for my husband, because it's like, well, I'm married. Like, there's no threat,
Right. It's not what I'm here for, guys. Just let me make my music, get out of the way.
And now you can win arguments with your husband too. Say, I've won a Grammy Award. You can't even contradict me. You can just do that. I'm just putting that out there. Sorry.
It is so nice, and I loved that Molly Tuttle included 2 women in her band, so it was
awesome.
3 women, 2 men. That kind of tipped the scales, but it was a beautiful balance, and I'm really looking forward to creating my own band and including women, and as I was included, and it's awesome. I got to play with Alice Gerrard recently, who she is very well known in the bluegrass and old time world for her duet with Hazel Dickens. Hazel and Alice did West Virginia, oh my home. That's kind of their hit. But anyway,
never stop singing. Please come over and sing to me.
She was so cool to meet, because she's like the grandmother that was doing it. We think it's hard for us now. I can imagine what it was like for Alice and Hazel back in the day. They were all having children and still making time to create music and be on stage with the Seeger family, and she had befriended Elizabeth Cotten, and they went on tour with Elizabeth Cotten, and I have a lot of gratitude for the women that came before me to be the trailblazers and open up the crack or whatever. It feels like a road now that we're walking down together, but it's not just a crack anymore, thanks to Hazel and Alice and June Carter and the women that came before.
Yeah, wow. And Shelby Means now. Opening up adding another lane to the highway for more people to come.
Yeah, come on, let's go.
Let's go. Road metaphors, Jim. Road metaphors.
I love every single one of them. By the way, we've taken the trail. It's been paved, and now it's got a couple of lanes in it as well. I'm sorry, but we're now coming to the exit ramp, Shelby.
No.
I did that pretty
All
good.
right. Well, let's have safe travels to everyone out there listening.
There you go.
Happy
See?
listening to the Shelby Means Bluegrass record.
There you go. Shelby Means in on the road metaphor. Please go get this album, everybody. The new record out. It's Shelby's solo debut record. Download it. Don't just stream it. Download it. Download it so you don't lose service as you're driving along the road. Anywhere you stream music, Shelby Means. Shelby Means Bluegrass. Shelby Means Badassery. Shelby Means go get back to your vacation. Thank you for being here.
All right. Thanks so much.